Have you ever denied yourself something you truly wanted? Not because you couldn't afford it, but because spending that money made you feel guilty. Have you ever stood in a store or hovered your finger over a payment button and heard a voice inside your head saying, "Not now. You don't need this. Be responsible." And you listened, even though a part of you felt tired of waiting, tired of postponing life. This story is not about money, not really, it's about fear, and how fear often wears the mask of discipline. It's about how saving can sometimes become hiding, and how people confuse security with living. This is the story of David Chun. And if you listen carefully, you may recognize parts of yourself in him. David Chun was 28 years old, an accountant by profession, and a saver by belief. Saving money wasn't something he did occasionally. It was his identity, his pride, his proof that he was different from his parents. David grew up in a house where money was always missing, but worry was always present. Unpaid bills lay on the kitchen table like accusations. His mother counted coins late at night. His father stared at numbers that never added up. David learned early that money wasn't just paper. It was fear, it was tension, it was silence at the dinner table. And so, as a child, he made a promise, a quiet one, but powerful. I will never live like this. I will never be afraid of money. Years later, when David finally landed his first real job, he didn't celebrate, he didn't relax, he calculated. He built a system, a perfect one, at least on paper. 70% of his income went straight into savings. Automatically, no thinking involved. The remaining 30% was carefully divided. Rent, cheap groceries, utilities, nothing extra, no room for mistakes, no room for enjoyment. New clothes were unnecessary. Eating out was wasteful, travel was irresponsible. David told himself this was maturity, this was discipline, this was what successful adults did. Every single morning, before brushing his teeth, before checking messages, David opened his banking app. The number stared back at him, and he stared back at the number. It gave him comfort, a sense of control, a feeling of safety. But slowly, quietly, something else was happening. While his savings account grew larger, his life grew smaller. He ate the same meals, sat alone most evenings, and watched weekends pass without memories. Friends invited him out at first, then less often, then not at all. David noticed, but he told himself it didn't matter. This is temporary. I'm building something. I'll enjoy life later. Later became a dangerous word. At work, his coworker Maria once stopped by his desk, her face bright with excitement. "There's a professional finance conference next month," she said. "It's amazing for networking. It costs $300. $300. David didn't hear opportunity. He heard loss. His chest tightened, his mind started calculating, half his monthly spending budget gone. "I can't," he said. "Maybe next year." Maria smiled politely, but something changed. She stopped inviting him after that. Weeks later, David saw photos on social media. Maria smiling, meeting people, standing beside names he recognized in the industry. He scrolled past quickly, telling himself it didn't matter. Then came Tom's birthday. Tom had been David's best friend for over a decade. The one person who knew his fears, his dreams. The dinner was at a nice restaurant, not luxury, just nice. David calculated again. Dinner, drinks, gift. Not feeling well. That night, David sat alone in his apartment, ate instant noodles and checked his bank balance. The number went up, but something else went down. His phone stayed silent. His apartment felt smaller, and the quiet pressed heavier than usual. David didn't realize it yet, but his pattern was costing him more than money. It was costing him visibility, connection, and growth. And then, one Tuesday morning, everything shifted. His manager called him into her office. His heart pounded. His palms felt damp. "David," she said calmly, "we've decided to promote Kevin to senior accountant." The words hit harder than he expected. "I don't understand," David said. "My performance reviews have been excellent." "They have," she replied. "Your technical skills are flawless." But Kevin invested in his professional growth. He attended conferences, built relationships, learned new tools. She paused, choosing her words carefully. You're doing great work, but staying safe isn't the same as moving forward. David walked back to his desk in silence. His face felt hot, his mind raced. Kevin earned the same salary. Kevin didn't seem rich. So how? That evening, David saw Kevin in the parking lot, getting into an ordinary car. Nothing fancy, nothing excessive. Congrats on the promotion, David said. Thanks, man, Kevin smiled. I'm grabbing coffee with some people from the conference circuit on Thursday. You should come. These connections really changed things for me. David almost said no. Almost. Coffee meant spending money. Networking meant more events, more costs. But something inside him cracked, just slightly. What time? He asked. That decision, as small as it seemed, was the first crack in David's old belief system, and he had no idea what was about to happen next. That Thursday afternoon, David arrived at the coffee shop 10 minutes early. He stood outside for a moment, watching people walk in and out, holding cups, laughing, talking. For dollars, that was all this cost, and yet his chest felt tight. Old habits don't disappear quietly. They argue, they whisper. They remind you of every worst-case scenario. David stepped inside. Kevin waved from a corner table. 3 other people sitting with him, mid-conversation, comfortable, relaxed. David ordered a black coffee, nothing extra, no sugar, no milk. When the payment went through, he felt it. That familiar sting. The feeling that said, you're losing control. But he sat down anyway. Introductions went around the table, job titles, projects, ideas. David mostly listened, nodded, absorbed. Then an older woman with calm eyes and a steady voice turned toward him. So David, she said, what do you actually do? The question was simple, but the way she asked it wasn't. David explained his role, his skills, the systems he managed. She listened closely, didn't interrupt, didn't glance at her phone. That's interesting, she said slowly. My company is actually looking for someone with exactly that skill set. David straightened in his seat. It's a 6-month consulting project, she continued. Flexible hours, pays well. The room felt quieter suddenly. David nodded, trying not to look too eager, trying not to hope. Would you be interested? She asked. That night, David lay awake staring at the ceiling. His mind replayed the conversation again and again. All of this from a coffee he almost didn't buy. 2 weeks later, David signed the contract. An extra $1,500 per month. The first thing he did was open his banking app. The number jumped. An instinct kicked in. Save it, lock it away, don't touch it. During their first official meeting, the woman from the cafe introduced herself properly. Grace, she said, and smiled. They discussed expectations, timelines, deliverables. Then Grace asked a question that caught David off guard. Do you invest in yourself? David didn't hesitate. I save most of my income, he said. I'm very disciplined. Grace smiled, but not in admiration. It was a gentle smile, one that carried experience. I used to say the same thing, she said. I saved aggressively. I thought discipline meant deprivation. She leaned back slightly. I was so afraid of being poor that I made myself poor in other ways. The words landed heavier than David expected. For years, she continued, I watched my bank account grow, while my skills stagnated, my relationships faded, and my confidence quietly eroded. David felt exposed, as if she were describing him. Money sitting in an account feels safe, Grace said, but safety isn't growth. She paused, letting the silence work. Money is like water, she continued. When it doesn't move, it stagnates. But when you direct it with purpose, toward learning, toward health, toward relationships, it flows back to you, often multiplied. David swallowed. But what if I spend money, he asked, and it doesn't work out? Grace didn't rush her answer. Then you learn, she said. And learning is never a loss. She gave him a challenge. For the next month, I want you to spend money intentionally on 3 things: One that improves your skills. One that strengthens a relationship. One that teaches you something about yourself. David's hands felt cold. This went against everything he believed. But something inside him knew the old way wasn't working. He agreed. The first investment was the note that nearly broke him. An advanced data analytics course. David stared at the payment screen, heart racing, breathing shallow. His inner voice screamed, "This is irresponsible. This is a mistake. You're undoing years of discipline." 20 minutes passed. Then he clicked confirm. The guilt was immediate, sharp, persistent. For 3 days he regretted it. Then the course began, and something shifted. David learned tools he had never been exposed to, ways to visualize data, methods to find insights faster. At work, his efficiency doubled. He started finishing projects early, spotting patterns others missed. His manager noticed. The second investment was harder emotionally. David called Tom. The line rang longer than expected. "Hey man," Tom said, surprised. David apologized, honestly, without excuses. They met for dinner. $75. But the laughter, the stories, the shared silence. It felt expensive in the best way. For the first time in years, David felt present. Tom mentioned photography, a hobby he'd fallen in love with. Instead of dismissing it, David listened. Tom's eyes lit up. "Come to a beginner workshop with me next month," Tom said. "Just try something new." David went. The workshop was free, but afterward he bought a used camera. $150. The guilt returned, but weaker this time. Photography changed something unexpected. It forced David to slow down, to observe, to notice light, angles, moments. He started walking during lunch breaks, taking photos instead of scrolling his phone. His stress dropped, his creativity rose. At work, his presentations improved, clearer visuals, stronger storytelling. 3 months later, his manager called him into her office again. "I don't know what's changed," she said, "but your thinking has evolved. We'd like to offer you a senior role. $12,000 more per year." David felt tears burn behind his eyes. He had spent less than $1,000, but gained confidence, connection, clarity, and then it hit him. He had been trying to save his way to happiness. But happiness doesn't come from holding tighter. It comes from growing outward. 6 months later, David's life looked completely different. He still saved money, but now with intention. 30%, not 70. The rest flowed. Into courses, into experiences, into health, into people. His calendar filled slowly, not chaotically, but meaningfully. Coffee chats, weekend walks, occasional dinners. One evening, Tom looked at him and said, "You know what's different about you? You seem lighter. Like you're actually here." David understood. For years, he saved for someday without defining what someday was. He confused money with life. The lesson wasn't never save money. The lesson was this: money is a tool, not a destination. Saving without purpose is fear. Strategic spending is courage. The real question isn't, "Can I afford this?" The real question is, "What will this build?" Because the richest life isn't measured by a bank balance. It's measured by growth, by connection, by becoming someone you're proud to be.